Welcome to the podcast. If you'd like to listen to an ad-free version of this episode and all of our episodes, then search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. That's our premium channel where all of our ad-free and advanced episodes live, all in one place. True Crime Today Premium Plus. Search it on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. Even try it for 3 days free.
The dead don't speak, but their stories do. Welcome to Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski, featuring defense attorney and host of the podcast, Defense Diaries, Bob Motta.
Ashley Benefield, known as the Black Swan in the Black Swan murder trial. She, of course, the ballerina, sentenced now 20 years for first-degree manslaughter after fatally shooting her estranged husband, Doug Benefield, during that domestic altercation in 2020. The question was it needed? Did she need to go that extreme and pull the gun and shoot Doug Benefield? Did she believe she was in life-threatening danger in which she had to act the way that she did? The jury ultimately did not find that to be the case, and that's where she's sitting now. Bob Motta, defense attorney, joining me. We watched this one very closely together when it was happening, and we saw her on the stand giving some very emotional testimony. What's your thoughts now that we're, out a bit from the initial verdict?
Yeah, I'm still in the, I believe Ashley Benefield camp.
Mm-hmm.
I just do, it's like I watched every day of that trial. I listened to the testimony. I looked at the things that were filed that weren't allowed at trial. And, I thought that during the sentencing hearing, and I don't know if you had the opportunity to watch it, but that her attorney did a very good job kind of laying out the errors that Judge White had made during the course of that trial and pretrial in terms of, particular rulings that were made, and you kind of knew in that case, because it was a Florida case and because it was a stand your ground defense was available and ultimately denied by Judge White, that Judge White was very much of the mindset that he wasn't buying what Ashley Benefield was selling in terms of, the cycle of abuse, and that at that point in time that she felt that her life was in danger. And, you knew that. Mm-hmm. You knew that because he denied that and she couldn't bring that as a defense. So they ended up using, basically self-defense, which is different, So I wasn't shocked by the sentence. There was a lot of talk of a downward departure in terms of sentencing. Judge White had ruled from the bench that he felt that the defense did meet their burden in meeting a couple of the factors, providing enough evidence that a couple of the factors that would allow for a downward departure to be in play. But ultimately, it's still left to the judge's discretion. So, yeah, I find that two of the factors were met by the defense. However, I don't feel that this is a case where downward departure is something that I'm comfortable doing. Mm-hmm. So with that discretion, he denied, applying the downward departure, and, he sentenced her to the 20 years. And I think obviously it's going to be appealed. It's just hard to know. And it's one of those cases where, cause I'm very much an advocate for, survivors of abuse, especially women that have gone through these relationships where they were abused sometimes for decades, and sometimes when you're in it, you don't even realize it when you're in that relationship. And, and you get these divides in these cases. And we had talked about kind of the parallels between, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard in this, where you have somebody saying that something happened and you've got, a camp that's saying, oh, she's a liar, she's making it all up. Now that was a civil case, so it was different, but the context of it was very much the same. And here, you had this narrative that Ashley was, planning to get him out of her life permanently so as to have to deal with him and she could just raise their daughter without him being a part of it. And that being the motive for her getting rid of him. And, but the guy punched a dog in the face so hard that he knocked it out. The guy fired a weapon in the kitchen. This dude was a scary guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's those cases where you're like, oh, don't victim shame. Well, I'm not victim shaming. I'm just stating facts.
Yeah.
And like, my heart goes out to her. And really who my heart goes out to is her little girl,
Yeah.
who now no longer has a father and no longer has a mother, that at least is going to be able to raise her.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a tragic case all around. And I just hope that ultimately, if that thing gets appealed and it gets kicked back for a retrial, that there's some different decisions made in terms of what should be heard, because the past matters in terms of abuse cases. Like you have to kind of look at the totality of the circumstances in order to really reach a firm conclusion on what might have been going through her mind at that time.
Yeah.
Because the way I looked at it wasn't like, oh, she's a gold digger, because Doug didn't have that much money. It's not like Doug was some super rich dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like they had to borrow the money to open her ballet studio. It's not like he was some loaded guy. I think that it probably started as a genuine relationship, and he was an older dude and she was really attractive, and older dudes that don't have a ton of money, that can't just pivot to the next piece of arm candy or whatever, however they term it.
Yeah.
He was a jealous guy, man, and I could see him, and he was very controlling. So I don't know, man. Like I wasn't thrilled with it. I mean, you knew she was going to get sentenced. I was hoping the judge would go on the lower end, like the 10.5 years, but he split the baby, because she could have gotten 30.
Yeah.
Could have gotten around 10, and he went 20. So
welcome to the podcast. If you'd like to listen to an ad-free version of this episode and all of our episodes, then search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. That's our premium channel where all of our ad-free and advanced episodes live, all in one place. True Crime Today Premium Plus. Search it on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. Even try it for 3 days free.
You're in the thick of a true crime saga, every detail sinking in, and then, wham, a commercial about something you couldn't care less about. It's like being served a microwaved dinner at a 5-star restaurant. But it doesn't have to be this way. Go for True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts. With True Crime Today Premium Plus, you get uninterrupted, ad-free episodes, extended interviews that dig even deeper into the muck, and early access so you can brag to your friends. It's like ordering the secret menu at a crime buffet. So, search for True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and savor every twisted detail without interruption.